If you could go back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be? What would you tell your younger self to do or not to do in order to make yourself today better? As I was going to bed last night, this is a question that crossed my mind, and not in a regretful sort of way, but more so of what lessons have I learned in my life? What mistakes have I made that are teachable moments that I would tell my younger self, what advice should I have listened to earlier? And so I sat down and thought about it. And I wrote down the 5 life tips that resonate most with me. These are 5 things that I thought about, and these are things that I practice and try to be mindful of on a day-to-day basis. And so this video doesn't really have a theme. I'm just speaking to you viewers as sort of a friend. So I'm going to give you guys my 5 favorite pieces of life advice and go through my experiences with them, what I learned from them, why they're so important to me personally. And hopefully you guys can take away something from this. Maybe you could be more conscious of these things on a day-to-day basis, and hopefully it can help your everyday life. And so this first tip I love because you can implement it on a day-to-day basis, and objectively, at least I believe so, it's going to make your life better. It'll improve your relationships with others. It'll increase your knowledge. It'll improve your communication skills. There's just a plethora of benefits that you can get for following this first piece of advice. And so I'll get into it right now. You can learn something from everybody that you meet. I think we can all agree that you watching this video, me making this video, your parents, your sisters, your friends, we're not the smartest people in the world, right? Everybody has their own unique life experiences. Everybody has their own unique areas of expertise. You wouldn't go to a mechanic to get medical advice. You wouldn't go to a doctor to get mechanical advice about your car, and that's completely okay. Everybody knows more things about certain subjects than other people. And so that's why this rule of life is very important to me, because I believe that there's always going to be someone out there that's smarter than you, or at least smarter than you in one area or another, right? Yeah, sure, maybe you know more about math than somebody else. Maybe you know more about gardening than somebody else, but there's just no way, there's no way that you know more about life in general, about every single topic there is to be discovered and uncovered and discussed in life than every single person you encounter. So when I encounter new people, when I meet new people, or even when I'm with the people I already know, the people I already have relationships with, I always try to take nuggets of information and learn from it. It's obviously best to learn from people who are experts in their respective field or have a proficient level of knowledge on certain subjects, right? Again, going back to the doctor example, if I need medical advice, if I'm not sure what to do, how to solve this issue with my muscles, or, I'm feeling sick, I'm not really sure what's going on with me, I'm going to a doctor for that, because they're the most knowledgeable in that. And so when I go there, I'm listening to them, I'm paying attention, I'm mentally jotting down everything they're telling me, or things that I find helpful or useful, anything that I didn't know before I started talking to them. And not only does this improve your general knowledge about various situations in life, which is going to come in handy when you're growing up and obtaining more responsibilities and stepping into leadership roles and all that, but it also just improves your relationships with these people that you're talking to. People who are experts in their fields, they love to talk about the things they're good at, because they dedicate a large portion of their lives to learning these things. So I know they'd absolutely love it if you talk to them about this thing that they're experts in. They spend a lot of time in it, they obviously love it, and even if they don't love it, they're so immersed in it that they'll feel a sense of accomplishment for being an expert in the field and having people ask about it and having people actually care about what they do. So this is something that, again, I try to follow in every interaction I have. I try to learn something new every time I talk to somebody. Even my friends, when they talk about a new experience they have, I pay attention and listen. And keeping in mind that you can learn something from everybody will always keep you humble, will always keep you grounded. You're never going to approach any interaction like you're better than somebody. And I'm not saying to not have confidence in your own abilities, because you're going to have your own areas of expertise that you excel at and people are going to ask you about, and that you are more well versed in than other people. But also remember that you're not the expert at everything, and even those areas of expertise that you already know, chances are there's somebody out there that knows more than you, and again, that's okay. It's okay to admit that you don't know everything. My second piece of life advice, and I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm trying to practice it right now, is having good posture. Now this is something that I have a very constant relationship with, because I practiced such bad posture when I was younger that now it's no longer really second nature for me to be in good posture, and that's kind of a bad thing. As a kid, I was always kind of slouching over. I wasn't really caring about my posture. Even, my mother would poke me a lot of times, like, sit up straight, don't slouch, like, get up and stretch, you've been sitting at the desk for too long, yada yada yada. And I was always like, what, I'll be fine, it's not a big deal. I didn't really listen. I was a young kid, I didn't know any better. But again, I wish I would have paid more attention to that, because now as I'm getting older, I'm noticing that it's starting to cause a lot more issues. Getting older and being active, doing a lot of sports, physical activity, and not looking after your posture can really have an effect. I'm getting some back injuries, some leg injuries, just because there's a lot of times where I'm putting too much stress on one side of my body, or my back is, under a lot of duress. So when I go out to play these sports, my back has already suffered a lot, and then I go do these contorting movements and all that stuff, and it just doesn't end up well sometimes. So posture is definitely something that you guys want to be mindful of pretty much all day. When you find yourself slouching, snap into it, sit back up. When you notice that you're sitting for long periods of times, get up, get on the floor, roll your back out, or just stretch, get up, hang on the pull-up bar. These are things that I do now consistently, because I didn't really care for this stuff when I was younger. Obviously, I was just a little ignorant as a child, as a teenager, and I'm sure a lot of you might be like that, and that's okay. I'm not here to blame anybody. A lot of kids, are kind of just worried about getting through life, having fun, and that's okay. That's what kids are supposed to do. But if you can, and if you're watching this video, I really recommend it. Not only does it help you physically, preventing injuries, just keeping yourself fresh and being able to do more athletically, but it also helps your confidence, and it helps your mental. Sitting up straight, chest out, you look more confident. You're going to also feel more confident. You know what I mean? It's not a placebo thing. It really does happen like that. As I'm getting older, I'm slowly developing it into a habit that it's, again, becoming second nature. But I had to retrain myself to do that, because when I would sit down, my natural thing would be to do this. Now I have to sit back and make sure my shoulders, are back, and my back is fully against the chair. I'm not leaning forward or anything like that. And especially playing video games, I know there's that meme that everybody sees when, you're sitting up kind of casually, and then shit gets serious in a video game and the guy leans over with his controller in his hand. I really used to be like that. And so now I make a more conscious effort not to do that, because of the amount of problems that it's caused me in my life. So personally, for me, that's something that I really value. I feel more confident. I look more confident. It's better for me in terms of an injury and health standpoint. So I think overall posture is something that's very important. Your back is very important. And so you want to make sure you're taking care of it from an early age, because it's very hard to fix as you get older. So this is something that you want to get a head start on. A lot of other things like hair, skin, these are things that, you have a better chance of fixing as you get older, even if you didn't pay attention to them as a kid. But posture and your back is something that's a lot harder. You can always develop muscle no matter what stage you are in life. You can always start eating healthy. These things, there's never a bad time to start. But with posture, not that it's impossible to do, but it just becomes a lot harder if you don't train yourself from an early age, especially the older that you get. My third life lesson that I really add heed to often is be confident in yourself, but let your work do the talking. And I think this is pretty self-explanatory, but you don't want to be the guy that brags all the time, that has to tell everybody he's this, that, and the third. It's like with these alpha male red pill YouTube channels, right? If you have to tell people you're an alpha male and you're this and that and you're so great, you're probably not an alpha male and you're probably not so great, right? If you were so great, your accomplishments, the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you handle relationships with other people, the people around you, the way people respect you, it would speak for itself. You wouldn't have to do all this talking. And so not only does this make you look good as a person, because nobody likes somebody that's always bragging and talking about themselves and, telling somebody how good they are, because a lot of the times we hear that, and if, we don't resonate with that, we might feel like they're talking down on us because we're not as good as them. Let's say you think you're stronger than all your friends, right? You don't have to tell them, oh, I'm stronger than all you guys. I'll lift all of y'all. I have bigger muscles, all that. All you got to do is simply lift more weight than them. You don't have to say a single word. They'll see the fact that you're benching 300 pounds or squatting 600 pounds, whatever it is, and they know that they can't do that in their heads. There is no need to say anything. Once they see you do a thing that they can't do, they will know, like, damn, I can't do that. He's better than me at this thing right here, because I just seen him do something that I can't do. And in that case, the work does all the talking, right? And this also kind of protects you from looking stupid. It's one of the worst feelings to talk a big game and say you're going to do this and make promises and not be able to keep them or fall short. You say you're going to beat somebody in a one-on-one playing basketball. You're talking all this smack, and then you go out and get embarrassed and lose. You look stupid like that. But if you didn't say anything and just went and played, and even if you did lose, right, you wouldn't look as stupid and people would still respect you. So the best thing to do is just chop wood, hammer away every day, day by day, at the things that you want to get better at, and slowly but surely the results will speak for themselves. You don't have to talk a big game. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. Just say it up here, right? Have this internal dialogue with yourself. If you want to be internally confident and be a little braggadocious, have it up here. Don't outwardly express it, because in my personal experience, only bad things can come of that. And again, I'm not saying not to be confident. I'm not saying to shrivel up and say, you know what, you're better than me and all that. I'm not saying that at all. But if you're that guy, people will know you're that guy. People know LeBron James is one of the greatest players ever. He doesn't have to say it on a day-to-day basis for you to realize that. You know, it's just based on his statistics, based on the way he plays, based on everything we've seen from him. We can just assume that. People have those arguments themselves. He leaves that to them. He doesn't have that conversation, and that's something that you guys, I think, should adhere to in your day-to-day lives as well. The fourth lesson, which is, I think, my favorite one on this list, because I think it really keeps you grounded and it really helps you make sense of bad situations. A lot of people go through traumatic events, you know, car crashes, family deaths, sicknesses. They often question, why did this happen to me? You know, I've been doing this. I've been a good person. I've been doing the things I'm supposed to do, yet this catastrophic or bad event happened to me, and it's just hard to grasp sometimes. And I know I've been there a lot of times, but this life tip right here has kind of helped me understand everything and help keep me grounded in these situations. This life tip is to accept everything that happens to you as either a blessing or a lesson. So if something good happens to you, obviously it's a blessing. You should be grateful for it, thankful for it. Even something as simple as being able to wake up every morning, being able to walk. These are small things that we probably don't think about on a day-to-day basis, but a lot of people in this world may not have the same luxuries that we do. And so everything that happens to me, everything good, you know, even winning a small amount of money, accomplishing a goal, getting a job, even if it's not, you know, the most highest paying job, I'm thankful for all of it. Everything is a blessing to me. Gratitude is overall one of the most important traits you should practice on a day-to-day basis. And so the second part of that life lesson is to take everything that happens to you as a lesson. So when something bad happens to you, what I always do is I always look at the situation and think, okay, what can I learn from this? What can I pull from this and use it to either fuel me or learn from it and make me become a better person? Because as bad as something might be, you know, a family death, sickness, and injury, you can always pull something from it. There's really no point in just sitting and sulking in your misfortune, saying, woe is me, I can't believe this happened. Even though some of these things that happen are out of your control, I do believe that there's always something that you can pull from it and learn from it. You're able to learn from everything that happens to you. You're able to grow from every situation, good or bad, that happens to you. You're able to use it as fuel. You're able to not make the same mistake again twice. You're able to improve the way you treat people and do things going forward if you look at everything as a learning experience. And I'll even share a story with you guys about a situation in my personal life where this rule has come in handy for me and really helped keep me grounded and help me get through a difficult time. So I'm getting up for work on a Monday morning and I'm running a little bit late, nothing too crazy, but late nonetheless. I get ready, I get in my car, and I drive to work. I'm driving on my usual route to work. Everything's going fine, normal as always. And so I'm driving on this one street, you know, green light right in front of me. And I'm driving through this intersection where the green light is coming. And out of nowhere, a car comes and turns right into me and hits me on the side of the car. And I get into this absolutely bad car accident. Luckily, I wasn't really harmed in any sort of way. I hurt my back, which is funny talking about posture. But I hurt my back in that accident, but nothing life-threatening, nothing serious. So, you know, thank the Lord that I'm alive. And so my car's completely totaled. This guy just runs into me. It's completely 100% his fault. He's yelling and screaming at me, and he's making a big fuss about this and all that. And, you know, that situation had a lot of negative effects on my life. I had to go to physical therapy for my back, and I'm still suffering a few consequences from that. I completely lost my car. It got completely totaled. I had to go and buy a new car. I wasn't able to commute to work consistently and reliably every single day. I had to jump through a bunch of hoops with the insurance company to recoup the damages and you know, get compensation and all that. So it was a whole big mess. I could have sat there and said, what was me? You know, this guy's such an idiot. I can't believe he did this, and he's stupid for that. And, you know, while, you know, I did think that in the moment, once the dust settled and I calmed down a little bit, I just looked at the situation and thought, how could I have prevented this? Personally, and even though it was not my fault, even though it was completely his fault, I'm driving on a green light and this guy turns on a red light and just completely crashes into me, right? I had nothing to do with this. This was completely not my fault, but yet I looked at the situation and said, okay, what could I have done to prevent it? And so what I learned from that situation is timeliness, right? If I wasn't late to work, even though I was only going to be late by 1 to 2 to 3 minutes, because I looked at that experience as a lesson as opposed to something horrific and just started crying about it, right? I learned from it, and now I'm more conscious of being on time, right? I'm more conscious of showing up on time to things and being on time to work. I learned from that experience, and like I said, there's always these things you can pull from every situation. So Again, everything in your life you should look at as a blessing or a lesson, and if you do that, I promise you that you will live a happier life. It'll be just a lot easier to get through those dark times, those bad ruts. And so even when I'm going through bad situations like I am right now, I'm still able to keep my head up and maintain at least somewhat of a consistent rhythm to my life and not completely fall off the wagon. So this tip is very important in that aspect. And this fifth and final life tip that I think everyone should practice on a day-to-day basis sort of ties into our first point of learning something from everybody, and it's that you should always focus on the other person. Going back to point one, not only can you learn something from everybody, but in general, you should also be genuinely interested in everybody that you meet and encounter. More so when I'm meeting new people, but even with the friends that I currently have, I always think in my mind, okay, what can I learn from them? What can I offer them? What can I do for them? You know, what interesting things can they share with me? And I always kind of try to shift the focus back on them. And maybe that's just because I'm not a fan of talking about myself, and you know, I don't personally like to brag. For a majority of people, they would love to talk about themselves. Going back to point one, if they're an expert at something, they would love to talk about that thing they're an expert at. If they put in time and hours into something, they want to be able to talk about that. And a lot of people are kind of a little too wrapped up in themselves as opposed to trying to help other people. When was the last time one of your homies checked up on you just to see how you were doing? When is the last time one of your homies asked you, yo, how are you doing? Genuinely, how are you doing? And I don't mean when you've expressed to them that you've had problems or, you know, you've obviously appeared down and your behavior has changed, but just out of pure love and just out of nowhere have asked how you doing. And I'm not saying that people who don't do that are bad people by any means, but it's like a lot of people are kind of concerned with themselves. And even me, I'll admit, a lot of the time, like, I'm kind of focused on me and improving myself, and sometimes I neglect the people around me. I struggle with initiating text conversations. I'm not the person that's going to text first, and that's something that I'm improving on every day, and I'm being mindful of the older I get and trying to improve as much as I possibly can, because a lot of people are kind of focused on themselves. And again, I don't blame them. You should be focused on yourself, and you should worry about getting yourself whole and right before you worry about other people. But at the same time, you don't want to neglect others. You don't want to use the excuse of you not being ready or you going through things to treat other people like crap. And so those are 5 of my favorite life lessons. I hope that you guys can take away all 5 of these tips from this video, or at the very least, at least one of them. I hope that this was insightful. I hope that you can be more mindful and conscious of these things on a day-to-day basis. And I hope that they can improve your lives. Let me know if any of these things resonate with you in the comment section down below. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bah!